This is RTV6 News at 11, working for you.
We have a public safety crisis on our hands, and only we can solve it.
Faith leaders joined together today, calling on everyone in Indianapolis to help reduce the violence. It's a call to action they hope will ultimately help save lives. Good evening and thanks for joining us here at 11 o'clock. I'm Nicole Griffin. 118 people have been killed in homicides this year in Indianapolis. Faith leaders say they are using the urgency of the moment right now to bring solutions to the table. But they know in order to reduce the violence in Indianapolis, they need to work with the people living in communities that are being impacted. Today, they proposed 5 steps they believe will help save lives in our city. One of those calls on grassroots organizations to work with faith-based groups to create neighborhood violence-free zones in hotspot crime areas. They say this is something that has worked in the past between 2000 and 2012 when homicide numbers were lower. They also want to create a Peace in the Streets marketing campaign. At today's press conference was the mother of Chris Beatty, who was killed during downtown protests back in May. The director of the Peace in the Streets campaign used his case as an example in the cases of 2 young people killed by stray bullets as a push to encourage people to get involved in the solutions they are bringing to the table.
The conversations that we have had and the pain and the anguish that she is feeling, and so many people who knew Chris and the great work that he did in our community. We don't want to see another Chris. We don't want to see another Naya. We don't want to see another Roderick. We don't want to see any of it. It is up to us to help our communities, and most importantly, hold each other accountable.
These are the 5 points that they are proposing. First, clergy and community leaders want to meet with IMPD Chief Randall Taylor and Mayor Hogshead to discuss a safety plan with 25 recommendations. Second, they are calling on neighborhood groups, community centers, and faith-based groups to create violence-free zones in hotspot areas. And third, they plan to hold weekly public safety walks in those areas, and they want everyone to join in. The first will be held this Thursday in Hawville. Fourth, launching the Peace in the Streets marketing campaign. And finally, asking religious organizations to promote peace in worship services during the month of August. We are following breaking news. A deadly shooting tonight on the west side just before 9:30. Metro Police were called to investigate the incident around the 2600 block of North Harding Street. Police found the victim in critical condition. The victim, a man in his 50s, died a short time later. His name has not been released. New at 11, the first federal execution in nearly 20 years will happen tomorrow in Terre Haute. After all, a federal appeals court just ruled the lethal injection of Daniel Lee can proceed as scheduled. On Friday, we told you federal judge Jane Magnus Stinson put the execution on hold. The judge cited concerns over the coronavirus. The victims' families want to attend, but they are afraid of traveling during the pandemic. The judge ruled the execution should be delayed until the COVID crisis is over, but the appeals court overturned that ruling, and barring any last-minute changes, Lee will die tomorrow for the 1996 killings of an Arkansas gun dealer and his wife and daughter. RTV6 has been following and reporting on the ongoing issues outside of the city market downtown. We told you about business owners concerned about trash and illegal activity. Now tonight we are hearing from several groups who are banding together to protect those in need who have recently gravitated to the area. Troy Washington is working for you to explain the effort.
Because of COVID, so many parts of the housing insecure population have come downtown to be closer to the foot traffic and things like that.
And it appears that's a problem for business owners just trying to make a profit, who believe if groups stop giving out food, those in need won't stick around. These activists say their mission will stay the same.
We wanted to make sure that it was very clear that we're not going to stop feeding people. We're not going to stop reaching out to this community, and we're here to support them just like we would any other Hoosier.
They say they're disappointed with how some vendors near the marketplace sees those in need, and instead of shying away from helping, they're stepping up even more.
Providing them with food, providing them with resources. We've got HIV testing from the Damien Center and Step Up. We have the Bail Project out here providing warrant navigation and court date reminders and things like that. And Food Not Bombs, Queering ND, and Black Lives Matter are out here providing food as well.
It's absolutely important to ensure the humanization of houseless folks. So often people roll up their windows and drive past them or look away as if they'll disappear, and that's not the way to heal community or help community.
With all that's going on during the pandemic, these organizers say right now is the time to make sure everyone is taken care of, especially those who need the help. Working for you in downtown, Troy Washington, RTV6.
Troy, thank you. Business owners we've talked to say regular customers have started thinking twice about coming to shop because of the mess and the crowds outside of City Market. Some say there is a perception that it is not safe, and it's a much bigger issue, they say, than homelessness. They say there's also drug use and drug deals happening out in the open. Now to our continuing coverage of the COVID-19 pandemic and its impact on Indiana. The state health department reports 4 more deaths. 2,567 Hoosiers have now died from the coronavirus. More than 51,000 Hoosiers have tested positive for the virus. More than 564,000 people have been tested in Indiana, with 9.1% testing positive. Meanwhile, there are disturbing new records being set all across the country. The death toll from the coronavirus now surpassing 134,000 in the U.S., and more than 3.2 million Americans have had the virus so far. Hospitals in some states are at or near capacity. Here's ABC's Zoreen Shah with the details.
As the number of coronavirus cases in the U.S. tops 3.2 million, a wave of upsetting records are being set. 17 states with record high number of cases, 15 with record high hospitalizations, and 7 with record number of deaths.
It feels as though that we're headed for a disaster.
Today, Florida reporting 15,300 new cases, a record one-day total for any state. Auditoriums and conference rooms at this South Florida hospital now being used to treat patients.
So we've just taken literally every inch of the facility and converted it into patient care areas.
42 hospitals across the state without available ICU beds. In Arizona, 89% of hospital ICUs are full. Phoenix's mayor telling CBS the state is struggling to meet the demand for testing.
We are seeing positivity rates above 20%. We are setting records of the type you don't want to set.
Doctors report 90% of COVID samples in Arizona have a mutation researchers believe makes the virus more infectious.
And this particular mutation allows it to infect human cells much easier.
Analysis shows the drug remdesivir increased the chances of survival in severe cases by 62%, though doctors have a limited supply.
Even though the supply of remdesivir is ramping up, we need to keep a lid on the number of patients that are being infected.
Admiral Brett Jouar, who has been tasked with coordinating the federal government's testing response, says we can expect the number of deaths to rise, but that the country is in a much better place with tests, PPE, and treatments.
This is not out of control, but it requires a lot of effort. You really got to stop the bars. You've got to decrease restaurant capacity. You've got to physically distance. We have to have people wearing a mask in public.
President Trump wearing a mask in public for the first time Saturday evening as he met with wounded service members and healthcare workers at Walter Reed Military Medical Center. The president has been urged to set an example by wearing a mask from some in his own party and had come under criticism from Democrats. The Biden campaign saying he was ignoring the advice of medical experts and politicizing wearing a mask. Zoreen Shah, ABC News, Los Angeles.
Indianapolis Public Schools will host a virtual town hall Monday evening to discuss its back-to-school plan with families and community members. If you'd like to join, you must register for the Zoom event ahead of time, and space is limited to 5,000 participants. The meeting will also be live streamed on the IPS Facebook page. IPS Superintendent Alicia Johnson and school district leaders will be available for questions. Marion County Public Health Department Director Dr. Virginia Kane will also join the discussion. On Friday, IPS announced classes will resume in person and online on August 3rd. At school, students and teachers will have to wear masks. Students will get one free mask from their school and get a mask break during the day. Families wanting to use the remote learning option should fill out an application by this Friday, July 17th. The Indiana Red Cross is calling on volunteers to help sew and distribute face coverings and face masks during the pandemic. In the last 6 to 7 weeks, they have already distributed 8,000 face coverings. But over the next 6 to 8 months, their goal is to have volunteers sew 15,000. The masks will then be distributed to childcare, senior and veteran care services throughout the state.
Everybody wants to help. We all want to make others' lives better, and this is really a really cool way to do that, because these face coverings are so important. In fact, they're so important that the mayor of Indianapolis says everybody's going to wear a face covering, and so they're really important. These face coverings really do help prevent the transmission of COVID-19, and so it's an important thing.
The Indiana Red Cross does not want people that cannot sew to be discouraged to help, because they say there are many steps to make this effort possible, including ironing, cutting out patterns, and disinfecting the face coverings and packages. We have a link right now on the RTV6 app with details on how you can get involved. Tonight, we are learning there is another effort underway to create a tiny house village here in central Indiana. The first tiny house is already in place at Camp Canby in Hendricks County. It's a project by a Tiny Act of Kindness that aims to create a community of tiny homes for people experiencing homelessness. The project will focus on intervening early and providing access to supportive services for residents. The ultimate goal is to create a safe community where the residents understand each other's challenges. Due to the pandemic, they don't know how soon they can start building additional tiny homes, but they hope to start soon and get people into a safe place.
With COVID-19, as you can imagine, the homeless community is at risk because there aren't very many sanitary options, and within the shelters, they're very close in proximity to each other. And the nice thing about the tiny homes is that they can self-isolate. They can stay home and be away from other individuals, whereas in the situation that we're in now, they cannot.
Tiny Act of Kindness is partnering with Active Grace, the owners and operators of Camp Canby. Their goal is to build 25 to 30 tiny homes that will be paid for with donations. If this project is successful, they have applied for a grant to also build a tiny house village for those experiencing homelessness here in Marion County. Strong reaction to President Trump's sentence commutation for a longtime friend and ally. The decision even prompted a rare move from the main man whose investigation put Roger Stone behind bars in the first place. Details coming up.
And it is a quiet start to the week, but those rain chances are going to make a return in the week ahead. I'll let you know when the 90s will also make a return. You're watching RTV6 News at 11.
Call 1-877, only ATT.
President Trump's decision to commute the sentence of Roger Stone continues to draw intense criticism this weekend. Former special counsel Robert Mueller, in an op-ed for the Washington Post, writing Stone is still a convicted felon. Here's ABC's Alex Perche with the details.
President Trump announcing late Friday that he has commuted the sentence of Roger Stone.
I'm very happy with what I did.
The president's decision coming just days before his longtime friend and former campaign advisor was set to begin his prison sentence.
He told me that he had decided to use his extraordinary powers of clemency to commute my sentence.
Stone was convicted in November of 7 felony counts brought against him by special counsel Robert Mueller, including lying to Congress, witness tampering, and obstructing the House investigation into Russian meddling in the 2016 election. In a rare move, former special counsel Robert Mueller breaking his silence, penning an op-ed in the Washington Post defending his investigation of Stone, writing he remains a convicted felon and rightfully so, adding because his sentence has been commuted, he will not go to prison, but his conviction stands. House Intelligence Committee Chairman Adam Schiff criticizing Republicans for failing to defend the rule of law and standing up to the president.
Anyone who cares about the rule of law in this country is nauseated by the fact that the president has commuted the sentence of someone who willfully lied to Congress.
House Speaker Nancy Pelosi telling CNN that the president's decision represents staggering corruption.
People should know this isn't just about lying to Congress. That means lying to the American people. witness tampering and the rest. And it's about our national security.
Last week, Attorney General William Barr telling ABC's Pierre Thomas Stone's 40-month sentence was fair.
He was prosecuted while I was Attorney General. I think the prosecution was righteous.
But now Stone will not serve a single day of that prison sentence. Alex Perche, ABC News, Washington.
Last night at this time, we were tracking a line of thunderstorms moving into central Indiana, but a much different story tonight. No rumbles of thunder going to be waking you up. As we look at Storm Team 6 radar and the satellite here, you can actually see those clouds are really starting to thin out. A quiet night, and now our wind is out of the north between 10 and 15 miles per hour. That's going to continue to drive in some more comfortable air here. The humidity right now at 68% with that temperature of 73. Now, you had some rain earlier in the day around the Richmond area, also into eastern Howard County. That's where we find temperatures in the 60s. It's 70 right now in Martinsville, 73 in Bloomington, but we will find those temperatures actually dipping many spots into the upper 50s first thing on Monday morning. So a refreshing change is certainly moving in here with a low of 62 in the city, and it's going to be followed up with a lot of sunshine in the Monday forecast here, and temperatures that gradually make their way through the 70s and back into the lower and middle 80s. That muggy meter, though, we mentioned, it's going to stay in the comfortable range here as we go through Monday and really into Tuesday. What that means is we don't really have to talk about much of a heat index factor here as we go into the afternoon hours. So we will get to enjoy temperatures around 84 in Indy, 85 for you in Columbus. Not going to feel like 90 degrees, at least not yet. Those temperatures do start to warm up as the week goes along. Tuesday, a high of 87. We are back into the 90s here by midweek, and 88 on Thursday. So we'll hover around the 90-degree mark for several days. What's really going to keep those temperatures from taking off even more will be an increasing chance for some showers and a few thunderstorms. But it's really not until we get to late Wednesday that we see that next chance for rain. This is TrueCast at 5 o'clock Wednesday evening. Things are fairly dry. We start to see a little bit of that rain moving in and lingering into our Thursday, and that's what brings down that temperature just a little bit. But the 7-day planning forecast, as we put things together, shows those quiet conditions for Monday and Tuesday with high temperatures around the middle to upper 80s. Pretty seasonal for this time of year, and overnights are going to feel pretty nice as well. There's that 91 on Wednesday. Again, most of the day will be dry, but Wednesday's also when we will notice a bit more humidity in the air, and certainly by Thursday with about a 30% chance for some showers and thunderstorms, and those 90s, they are going to be settling back in here as we go into next weekend as well. So we're not done with the heat. We may just kind of put it off by a couple of days. Stay with us. We've got more news at 11 right after this.
The Pacers and Fever are both in Florida as each of their leagues get ready for a summer start. The Fever say they are looking forward to regrouping and regaining some momentum. More now from Brad Brown in tonight's Sports Extra Spotlight.
With Bankers Life Fieldhouse under construction, the Fever were all set to play this summer at Hinkle Fieldhouse.
A lot of great things, I think, from the organization side. You know, the coaching staff has been great. With all the highs and lows and everything that we've been dealing with, as we all have been dealing with.
But like most everything else this spring, those plans never even got a chance.
Finally, I see the end. I see the light at the end of the tunnel, and so I'm excited.
The coronavirus detour will be sending the Fever and the entire WNBA to Bradenton, Florida. The prestigious IMG Academy will be the host campus for the revamped season.
I think we have a chance to be very good this year, and I also think we have an opportunity to get better each and every time we hit the floor. I think that will be really telling in terms of our overall success. How much can we improve from day to day, from game to game?
New head coach Marianne Stanley sees this as just another challenge in trying to bring the franchise back from the bottom.
Everybody has managed the curveballs and the changes really, really well. I mean, all of you have done so in your lives, and I'm sure you can appreciate how difficult this has been on players who were anxious to get started, quite some time ago.
The Fever's rookies and veteran additions have been working out in Indy the past couple of weeks. There is a lot of potential with each group.
We are a relatively young team. I mean, if you take that leadership off the top, we're a real young team. So I think the blend is nice. Okay, we're kind of getting the best of both worlds, but having most of the roster back from a year ago is significant.
The WNBA is dedicating its season to social justice initiatives. Fever players and staff have been active in the local Black Lives Matter movement, hoping to make an impact far beyond basketball this summer.
You know, we've been really blessed, I feel really blessed to be in an organization that everybody supports us. And from our side, from the Patriots side, really making sure that our voices, our players' voices are heard. And so the next step is, you know, really trying to figure out what it is that the players want to do. We understand that, we know it's going to be very unique, but I think it's really a big opportunity. It's an opportunity as a league. It's an opportunity for us to, you know, do things that maybe we wouldn't have been able to do before.
Brad Brown, RTV6 Sports.
Some people run in the best circles.
Childcare is a top concern for millions of working parents. If you have to go back to the office and your childcare center is closed, what do you do? Experts say this is a key piece to the puzzle to reopening the U.S. economy. More now from ABC's Karen Travers.
Oh, I am here at my daughter's daycare, and that's it. You know, they're closing.
Diana Lamangi says she is heartbroken. She couldn't hold back her emotion as she packed up her 3-year-old daughter's things from her now closed childcare center.
It's a beautiful space, and both my kids went here, so I'm really, really sad.
Lamangi and many working parents are learning firsthand a tough reality. The coronavirus pandemic is pushing the nation's childcare industry to the brink of collapse.
Childcare is a top concern for millions of working parents. If you have to go back to the office and your childcare center is closed, what do you do? Experts say this is a key piece of the puzzle to fully reopening the U.S. economy.
Nationwide, nearly half of childcare providers completely closed their facilities during the COVID-19 shutdowns, according to research cited by childcare experts. Of those that stayed open, 85% are operating with less than half of their usual child enrollment. The outlook for the industry is grim. One study found that roughly half of U.S. childcare capacity is at risk of disappearing.
Childcare is in a crisis moment right now.
Circle Time is a childcare center in Kensington, Maryland. It's stayed open during the COVID-19 shutdowns because it serves essential workers. But their numbers went from a full enrollment of 78 children to, at one point, just 9.
We sent out an email just asking parents to pay what they could in order to hold their spots if they weren't coming in.
Childcare centers are expensive to operate. Now throw in the additional costs of the new normal in the coronavirus pandemic: PPE, sanitizer, deep cleanings. The $2 trillion CARES Act, a federal COVID-19 relief package, included nearly $60 billion for the airline industry. But just $3.5 billion was set aside for childcare providers. Democratic Senator Patty Murray introduced legislation to put $50 billion in federal funding toward this critical industry.
I'm just saying to my fellow colleagues, just ask any friend you have with kids, what is their biggest issue right now, and this is it.
I asked Gigi Serrano, how long can Circle Time hang on without full enrollment and more government help?
We'll probably be good until about September. But beyond that, it's really just going to depend. It's a long time to ask families to contribute when there's really no actual end date.
Karen Travers, ABC News, Kensington, Maryland.
A nice start to the week here as we'll have lots of sunshine, temperatures in the 80s, but those 90s, Nicole, are going to return by Wednesday.
All right, Kyle, thank you. And thank you for joining us. Have a great night.